Right,
Okay.
we ready to go? You can dim the lights if you like, that'd be nice. So thank you very much for coming to our presentation on turning the tanker. It was turning the oil tanker, but we took oil out of the equation just in case there are some green issues. So it's now turning the tanker. My name is Mark Rudge. This is my colleague Suzanne Manson. We're part of the management team in the IT department in Cornwall Council. And we're going to take the next sort of 40 to 45 minutes to tell you about the journey that we've started. And we hope that you will be able to take away some things from this. We've got 4 main points, which we hope you'll be able to take away. Cornwall Council is the biggest employer in Cornwall, employs 8,000 people. It's got about 7,500 Windows devices on its estate, just over 2,500 Apple and Android devices. It's a very varied and complex organization, from running an airport to, which you may have enjoyed the services of, to a 999 fire service, to running a quarry, to children's and adult services. So it's very complex and very diverse in what it does. Any questions, I would ask that you just keep them to the end. We might not have enough time. If we do, we'll take questions. If not, please catch us afterwards. Okay, you can probably relate to the analogy of an oil tanker. It's one of those things that once it starts moving in a direction, it's actually very difficult to turn it from that direction. And most organizations, I think, almost whatever size, are pretty much like that. They're very difficult to turn. An oil tanker, you know, just a normal oil tanker with a normal load will take 20 minutes to stop. If they want to stop in an emergency, it takes 15 minutes. Oh, it's not much better. Before they get into port, they turn their engines off 15 miles before they get to port, because the momentum carries them the last bit of the journey. That's how difficult it is to stop or turn an oil tanker. And my goodness, does it feel like that when you're trying to create change, and especially transformational change, within an organization. There are some things that pull the tanker. Now, we've got 3 things here that we have in Cornwall Council that just keep us going in that same direction. We have a 4-year plan. We've talked about linear plans, haven't we? 4-year plan, that's what we need to tie ourselves into. We've got old technology, we've got bureaucracy. We could have put a whole list of different things in here, and you'll have your own list of things which just keep the organization pushing in the same direction.
Okay, so you've got this tanker now. It's driving full speed ahead on its direction, on its course. And once you make the decision that you want to change that direction, I mean, in organizational terms, that's really challenging, right? So how do you do that? So for the next 40 minutes or so, we're going to step you through the journey that we've been on at Cornwall Council. You know, as we say here, we're at the beginning of our journey. Our tanker has not fully turned. Okay, we're at the beginning of the journey, but in 12 months that we have been on this journey, we've made some big advances. We're going to be talking you through sort of 4 main areas. These are the 4 takeaways that Mark mentioned. The importance of acknowledging where you are. So what problems are you trying to solve? Once you understand which problems you're trying to solve, then you can start designing a better way. You know, you can have a vision for a better way. And then when you have that vision, how do you bring that to life for people? How do you get people to see that vision and to understand it? How do you give people the knowledge and the ability to make that change? And finally, we're going to talk about the help and support that's out there for you. You can probably see that it seems quite linear. And I'm just going to touch on the keynote speech today. This is a wicked problem we've tried to solve. We've made it linear for the purposes of storytelling today, but this was very much not a linear process at all, a wicked problem.
Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is you need to acknowledge where you are. Might feel a little bit like Alcoholics Anonymous, but you need to know where you are before you can move from it. If you're not honest with yourselves as an organization, then you won't be able to move from that. You won't know where you need to go. So the first step you have to take is about really recognizing where you are. And we did that, and it probably came home to us most strongly at Agile on the Beach, this conference 12 months ago. It was the first time the council had attended this conference, we actually didn't know that there was a conference of this class happening right on our doorstep. How disappointing is that? So we came for the first time. And the lightning talks that are happening later on, it was one of those lightning talks that really struck home to us. It was one by Belinda Waldock. And she talked about, and if you were here you might remember it, a simple sabotage field manual. The CIA had written a manual in 1944 about how to sabotage the productivity of an organization. And in 2008, it had become an unclassified document, and you could see it. And Belinda went through this and the steps, the things that you could do, that anybody in an organization could do to sabotage productivity. And you know, as those things came up on the screen, we recognized that we were doing nearly every single one of them. So we were sabotaging the productivity of our own organization without realizing it. There are just 4 that we're going to pick up here. There are far more. If you want to see the paper, then send me an email afterwards and I'll show you a link to it. So one of the things was demand written orders. When we want anything into IT, you have to fill out a form. And it's a nice, long, complicated form. Make sure you fill that out. Because you know, if you don't fill that form out, you won't get through the front door. So the first thing that you need to sabotage productivity is make sure they do a written order. No other way. Secondly, refer it to a committee. Oh my goodness, we love committees in the council. If we can create a few more committees. Now the sabotage manual says you need to have at least 5 people in that committee. More if you can get it, because you'll get more disagreement between people. Not only that, but make sure you challenge the decisions that were made at last month's committee. And then you'll really struggle to make progress. We love to refer things to committees, and they take a long time to get through. The third thing, do everything through channels. If it doesn't come through the right channel, you need to reject it and go, sorry, you need to come through this channel if we're going to accept it. Don't listen to what they're saying or anything like that, just make sure it comes through the right channel. And finally, no shortcuts. So if somebody's trying to have a conversation at the coffee machine, and they're trying to get you to do something that's not on your plan, no, you mustn't do that. All 4 things about sabotaging productivity we were doing, and we were doing in spades.
When we were considering this, we thought actually we could probably add a few more that we do to sabotage our own department. The first one, avoid talking to customers. We were quite good at this. So we'd often get engaged quite late in the process, just as a project was about to deliver. And as you can imagine, that causes all kinds of issues. But even when we were delivering, we were quite good at keeping customers in the dark. We wouldn't really give them much visibility of how things were progressing. Insist on multitasking. So as we were considering this, at the time we had 80 IT initiatives on our books. So what we would do, a new request would come in, and we'd assign a project manager to that, because that was our process of how we'd work out what work was to be done. Of course, we knew that we were already heavily constrained, but we'd sign on more anyhow. It just really did 2 things. It gave the illusion to our customers that we were delivering 80 things concurrently, and their expectations were sky high. And we just put an increased pressure on our teams, already constrained, already losing focus on what they needed to do. Resources to the big projects. So when you've got too much demand and you haven't got enough people, prioritization becomes even more of a thing that you do. So what we would do in our model in Cornwall Council is we put our resources onto those large, strategic, critical programs. What we really did there was we lost the flexibility to deliver the small stuff that can really add value to services. So we're stepping back now, and we can see these 7 things. We believe these were our problem statements. We work in IT. We've got first-hand experience of these things. But it's not really about what we think, is it? It's like, what do our customers think and what do our colleagues think? So we did check in with our customers, and you can hear some really difficult messages. So we did check in with our customers, and we're going to play a short clip with one of our service directors, Alan Hampshire. What he's about to say summarises pretty nicely the sorts of feedback we got from when we went out to our customers. We're going to hear from Alan now.
So the main challenges with the IT service and also the IT equipment, probably I would start with, first of all, the relationship and the interaction between my service and the IT service. And I'd ask, do we really have someone within the IT service who, first of all, listens to what our needs are, understands those needs, gets what we're trying to achieve, and give some really good advice, can actually tell us about what the art of the possible is, and then probably most importantly, be our champion. We're a bit too slow. I think the IS service, it just takes too long to get the type of equipment or changes to the technology that we need. And we've been waiting for years, sometimes 4 years, for just some basic equipment like laptops or tablets and the like, and it's just too slow. Okay, another issue would be it feels a bit too bureaucratic to get what we need. We often have to fill out multiple business cases to get an understanding of some of the new technology that we might need, let alone get prioritisation for that. We then would have to go through a number of boards, whether it's ICMB or other boards, and often that can come up with a no answer as well. So it just feels very, very clunky to try to get our needs delivered. Key challenges would be in terms of how some of the projects or programs are prioritised. We don't always get it. I fully get that there's a big program of work going on corporately to deal with some of the main infrastructure. So we know there's a lot of big infrastructure work that's required, but that often means that the service requirements, and they may be smaller needs, but they may be really quite important to that service, are often overlooked or never prioritised or never get prioritised, and that can be a real issue. I never feel that I've got maybe the full picture of what's going on, so don't often know why there may be a delay to implementing new tablets or a system, and maybe often don't get the reasons behind it, and also not enough of the why things are as they are, so why we haven't made the priority list. The impact of that can be that myself and the service can get really frustrated. We don't understand why things aren't happening. That can also lead to unnecessary service failure or to our customers, because we were maybe expecting certain things to happen at a certain time, and then they don't appear, we don't know why, and then we can't communicate properly why that's the case.
Okay, so that was the view from the customers. So we also decided to check in with our colleagues, and here's a view from one of our colleagues, Simon Williams.
Simply put, is just being able to deliver and not being able to deliver as quickly as you know that the skill sets and the people around you could deliver on, but everybody's we're just trying to do too many things at once, essentially. So my frustration is really not being able to get a project team together, focused, and to just get stuff out the door. We have had a bit of a fear culture of doing things wrong, so I think that makes people regress into very rigid ways of working and follows probably bureaucratic processes without much flexibility or pragmatism.
So you can see there's both a view from our customers and view from staff themselves. Actually, they're pretty well aligned, and the same messages are coming out from that. So that's about acknowledging where you are. But of course, there has to be a better way. There has to be something that you move from. If you acknowledge where you are, how do you start to move to a different world? And how do you describe what that vision of the future might look like? For us, there were 2 events which we picked out, which we think were very significant in our journey. They were the Agile on the Beach conference last year, and Gartner Symposium, which you may or may not have attended. There were 3 key messages which came out for us, and of course there were a lot there, at Agile on the Beach. The first one is that digital equals agile. We were in the middle of a major digital transformation program, but you have to do that in an agile way. Technology doesn't stay still. The requirements don't stay the same. And it really came home to us that you have to do agile if you're going to do digital. There is no distinction between them. Secondly, doing equals learning. We were very good at standing back and going, right, we'll just make sure it's really perfect and then we'll do it. Instead of just do something. learn from it. Do something and learn from it. Don't stand back. Have a go. Have a practice. And that's a major change for us as an organisation and culturally. Thirdly, delivery is addictive. You know, when you do deliver, it gives you a great feeling. And you want to do it again and again and again. If you don't deliver, it's frustrating and it starts to destroy you because you want to deliver. So that was something that we saw as a clear part of the vision, is get people delivering regularly for the customers and getting that feedback because it's addictive. Gartner Symposium came out with 2 other key messages, very much in Gartner speak, you have to excuse that. So their style is continuous next, and also a product-centric approach. Now, I'm going to leave our CIO, Ian Robinson, and our CTO, Steve Ellsworthy, to just tell you about that Gartner Symposium.
The Gartner Symposium is it's a meeting of IT leaders from all around the world, actually. They bring all of the top IT leaders and to give them their thoughts of what the industry is not only been doing, what it possibly may be doing.
The main topics that the Gartner Symposium 2018 was about continuous next. There's a strapline around sort of digital product management and continuous delivery. So moving away from this project world of understanding requirements and start dates and end dates, and moving on to, you know, digital is now. You're going to continuously deliver. You're going to continuously iterate.
But I can remember you and I actually just meeting for a beer that evening, and that we were talking about the transformation that we wanted to do in the service. We'd already sketched out some ideas, but it actually gave us the impetus to say we could go so much further with the opportunity that was in front of us. Yeah. But can you remember as well, we were saying that word ambition. Yeah. So we didn't want to be that traditional council. Yeah. You know, we really wanted, our own teams wanted to be, in their words, at the top table, debating IT and what IT could do for the business. But actually this did give us the framework to say we could take that ambition to a whole new level.
Okay, so we're back to our tanker. So our tanker is now starting to slow. And it's starting to slow because we're starting to see that there is this better way. And that better way for us, it's the vision we've now got of becoming product-centric, becoming more agile. It's about continuous next. And listed here on these flags, these are some of the principles that started to come up for us time and time again as we were discussing and debating what we wanted our IT service to look like as we were designing it. These things just kept coming up over and over again. And to us, these look to be the answers to those problems that we just went through. But again, we need to check, are they right? So we went back out to our customers. And hopefully, if the technology doesn't fail us, we'll be going to check in with our customers now.
So what would I change about the IS service to improve things? Number one, I would make sure that there was someone within the service who really listened to my service needs, really understood what we needed to do, could give some really good advice, maybe of what the art of the possible is for the future, of what we could have. This organisation needs to know what's going on, needs to know the why and the importance of some of the things that are being put in place, and also needs to know how things are being prioritised. I think a real ask actually of the IS service would be, is there any way we can speed things up? And in doing that, can we get rid of some of the bureaucracy that sometimes feels a little unnecessary? In fact, some of the bureaucracy feels like it's there deliberately to slow things down. And the final ask from me in terms of how we can improve things would be, it would be really great if the computer said, how can we help? And not no.
So I think the main things to change in IS would be that we focus on less output, so we really drive out where our priorities need to be and be honest with the organisation about what our capacity is on that, the huge number of things that they need us to do. And then once we've focused on a smaller number of objectives, to really get together as delivery teams around that and form proper teams to be able to break those objectives down and deliver quickly, small and quickly, and show value to the organisation. I think going forward, if we can create that culture, of being able to try something, fail, but very quickly resolve it because you've got the resources in place and the ability to do that, that would be a fantastic place to be. So I think bringing in the Agile methodology and using things like Kanban would be a huge help to making the team feel like lifting their spirits and feel like we're delivering value quicker.
For me, it's about the team. It's getting the right teams together and giving them, the empowerment to own stuff and deliver stuff, and making sure the customer is part of that, and just being a great place to work.
Yeah, and it is about the people. As much as we've started this journey from the top, it is all about the people being able to spread their wings. They have got the ideas. They've absolutely got the capability. So you put those two combinations and say you are empowered to bring that to life. And how do you want to bring it to life? And you know what? I'm going to be there to not blame you if it goes wrong, but I am going to ask, what have you learned from it? And if we can bottle that, we can take on the world.
Okay, so it's looking good. There's certainly the awareness there that we need to change. And what you can see from those clips, there's certainly the desire to turn our tanker in that particular direction. There seems to be the desire these principles seem to be correct. Now at this point, there's something that cannot be underestimated in our journey, and that was the IT leadership team were totally united behind this vision. And even despite all the hurdles that we knew were to come, there was an absolute belief that we could do this. That didn't come overnight. That was because we were discussing, debating, and really testing these things out. But we were absolutely united in that vision, belief that we can get there. And here's the big question. So how do you then get 150 people in your service to see that same vision?
Well, isn't that really, a key question that I'm sure all of us in our organisations, you create this picture of the future, you can sort of describe some of it. How do you get people to really see that vision? I want to do something just a bit more practical here, so you've done lots of listening, you do a bit of practical stuff here. I'm going to show you a picture, okay? And I want you to tell me, I want you to put up your hand when you can see an arrow. Okay, that isn't too difficult, is it? Reasonable picture of the future, an arrow. Okay, let's go for that. Not bad, everyone can see an arrow quite quickly. Right, really good. Now, can you put up your hand when you can see the fly? Can you see the fly on the screen?
These people can
Good,
see it.
yeah, a few. Yeah, well done. There's a few starting to see it quite quick. Others seeing that? No?
They get the vision. They can see it. They can see flying.
Can you all see that? Well, you can't see it. Well, there's a fly. Not too difficult, is it? There's a fly on the screen. No? No, not getting it. Okay.
Okay.
The fly is on the screen. Now, what's right interesting about that is that what you find when you're trying to portray a vision is that some people will get it straight away. Straight away, no problem, I've got this, I know where you're going, I'm on board. Other people will go, I should get this really, I should get it, I'll put my hand up. But they're not really getting it. And you find that as you go on your journey, they're not quite getting that vision, and it's really important that they are honest about that. And there are people, of course, that just don't see it at all. And you have to do a lot more to help them on that journey.
Okay. So we recognise the need for people to see the future. For me, vision, it's about glimpsing what the future is going to be like. What's it going to be like when you're there at the destination? What's it going to look like? What's it going to feel like? It's also when you can see that, you've got to believe you can get there, because it's going to be tough. You've got to believe it's achievable, it's doable to get to that destination. So for us, we thought we needed to bring it to life. So we did 3 small things to bring it to life for people so they could see and understand that vision. And what we thought was, if we start lighting a few small fires across the department, then hopefully they would catch and it would turn into something much bigger. So the first thing we did is to learn by doing. That was a key principle from the Agile on the Beach conference. So when we left Agile on the Beach, Mark and I, we were looking for opportunities to trial some of the things that we've been hearing about. And in our environment, there's software development, but we also have a lot of infrastructure deliveries. And one thing we wanted to challenge ourselves with is, could we find something that we could try and use some of those Agile principles on something which is infrastructure delivery, so not quite the standard software development. At about the same time, somebody had recommended a book to me, the Phoenix Project. Some of you, lots of people nodding, you've heard of it, some of you have read it. Amongst a number of things, it's as much about the theory of constraints. And in one of the chapters, they introduce a character called Brent. Now, Brent works in the IT department, and he's very knowledgeable. And actually, to get lots of things delivered, you need Brent. So he's become a single point of failure. He's the constraint. So because he's really useful, people come up to the side of his desk and ask him to do a few, it's a half-an-hour job or 10-minute job. So suddenly, you can't see what the work is. You can't visualize the work that Brent's got. And the message in the book, it's quite simple. You need to find out where your constraints are. You need to visualize the work. And then you need to do whatever you can to remove that constraint. What you don't want to do is have a log jam. So when work is passed around teams, you don't want to suddenly find that there's a bottleneck. So this all sounded very familiar for our environment. So we started there. So what we did, we found a team, a constrained team. It wasn't so difficult in our environment. And we invited them to join us to be part of an experiment together. And they agreed. So what we did together, we learned by doing. So we were trying to practice some of these agile principles we'd discovered. So first of all we did, we visualized all the works. We wrote all the work on cards. And then we used a Kanban board. So hopefully many of you are familiar with Kanban. It's a bit like Trello or Planner. It's basically visualizing work as it moves across a process through lanes. So we color-coded our cards with the work on. So we had pink cards for change, and we had blue cards for unplanned change. And then we literally have 4 lanes on our board to keep it really simple. So we had not started. We had work in progress. We had things that were blocked, so we could get visibility of those things that weren't moving. And then when the work was done, we moved it to the done column. So very, very simple experiment. And the team that were involved, we all agreed we'd try and do 2 things. We try and limit the amount of work in progress. Because if we did that, then we could start focusing. So we tried to promise not to take a new card until we completed the one we're already doing. And the other commitment we made was if you were doing the work, if you were touching that card, then you would actually try and update it so that we could really get visibility of where work was in that process. So it had great results for us, and I'm going to now hand over to some of our team to show you what they discovered.
Through implementing a Kanban board, the first thing that was really clear to me was where a lot of the demand on my team was coming from. I was aware of all the project requests that were coming in and perhaps weren't being fulfilled, but what I couldn't see and couldn't be shown in our other systems was the unplanned work, the walk-ups and can you just do this for people, and that would roll into hours or even sometimes days of work. And this unplanned activity, which starting to categorize that and color that differently, it showed up quite vividly on the board that the majority of our time was being spent on unplanned work where we were failing to deliver some of the planned project work and the commitments that we should have been making. My initial feelings when we were asked to look at Kanban as a method of managing work were I struggled a little bit with how it could make the sort of difference that I felt we needed to make. We needed to really shift our approach to managing workload in the team, and it almost seemed oversimplistic to me that just putting, initially we looked at post-it notes on a board and putting post-it notes on a board, how's that going to help us? Everyone's so busy. Have we got time for these daily stand-ups? And over time, the real kind of eureka moment for me was that first time you look at the board and you've actually mapped out what you've got on, which you've never done before, and you can see where it's all coming from. And that's the beginning of that journey for me. And so shifting from a situation where you're getting loads of ad hoc work coming in out of all sorts of different corners to somewhere where you can see the work. You're not always able to get to it as quickly as you'd like, or perhaps as quickly as your customer would like, but that you can see where it's moving through the process. You're looking ahead and saying, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be working on this set of work. And the flexibility to say, we finished this now. What can we do from this pile here that's a little bit smaller we can get done this week?
Start small and build up on it. Don't try and do a massive Kanban to start with. Start with the very basics and build on it every day. Get your team's input into building it, because that will help encourage them to work with it as well.
And I think just don't be daunted by Kanban, because the very nature of it is it's just going back to basics, really, and it's just pushing away all of the sort of complicated methodologies and everything else out there, and just going back to just common sense, practical working of what is it, this a smaller task that we can get done quickly and deliver some value, break it down and deliver it quickly. But you know, the more agile principles around team working and collaboration and being kind to each other.
Okay. So just a very small change which had a big impact for us, and actually now the majority of our teams are using this approach, they're using Kanban. And what really this is demonstrating is we're learning by doing, and we're just tweaking it as we go. So the second small thing we did to bring it to life for people is around coaching teams. So about the same time, we had a request come into the IT department. It was to stand up service desk capability for a particular line of business. And what we would normally do is we would assign a project manager to it, and we would wish them luck as they went away to navigate our internal processes. And we knew there was a lot of constraints in the teams, but we wished them luck regardless of that. So what we decided to do was something a bit different. What we wanted to do, we hear about at Agile on the Beach, we wanted to get everybody in a room. So get the customer in the room, get the technicians in the room, get everybody on the same page of what is the vision for what we're trying to achieve. What is the minimum viable product? We don't want to hoover up every requirement. What will actually get you started on this service desk? And we wanted to have the technical team there talking with the customer so that we could talk about what's achievable, what's the art of the possible. Which sounds great, right? The only problem is we'd never done this before, so we didn't know what we were doing. So we brought in the skills. So we brought in somebody who's got agile skills and who's got coaching skills. And that's very different from, we didn't want someone to teach or to train, but we wanted somebody to coach the team that we'd formed. So that's what we did. And the result was great. So what happened was, the customer entered that room, they had a list of requirements, they had a good idea what the solution was going to be, but it changed because we had the right people in the room. The conversation completely changed. And we ended up delivering something completely different. We got to the MVP and what we could do with the art of the possible. So it was hugely successful for us. And it's something that we then applied to in-flight projects to see how they could become more agile as well. And we're going to hear from Andy from Head Forward to tell us a bit more about this.
They've seen some small things that could improve IT, and then that's grown significantly. They've then got some help in that, and that's sort of, it's snowballed really. And then you've seen this significant change happen from a small start. Yeah, so I got involved after the council had been to Agile on the Beach, and they wanted to learn more. And again, we started with small things. So we started with Kanban boards, we started with some agile approaches. And once those got seen and we carried out a few agile workshops, I think people started to see that could really support and change things. And then that included more people got involved. We started to look at projects. We saw improvement in projects through taking an agile approach. And I think that's really, as I said, snowballed and shown how it can change and improve the environment.
Okay. So the third small thing that we did, so use disruptors to promote mindset change. So we didn't actually do anything, it kind of just happened. So we mean a disruptor in a very positive sense of this word. So here we have an individual that comes into our environment who's used to delivering things in an agile way. So he's now a project manager on a big program of work. And despite all of the internal processes, the bureaucracy that we have, he just seems to get things done in an agile way. And we're going to hear a bit more from him now.
So to start off with, my fundamental is triaging an issue. So if there's a problem, if there's a project, if there's a startup, it's really to try and get as many people in the room that have the answers to the solution. And really taking them on the journey of this is what I'm looking to try and achieve, or what I've been asked to achieve, and everyone's own individual's thoughts and responsibilities and elements of ownership through that delivery. So for me, it's about getting everyone together, everyone understanding the journey of where we need to get to, and then all taking individual elements of that journey and delivering them in an ordered fashion, not necessarily my order, but more their order on how they best believe that actually an element can be delivered, a new functionality can be delivered. And to be honest, I haven't got the technical skills. The guys in the teams have got the technical skills and understanding about how to best get their product out there. And for me, it's just bringing them together and facilitating their direction. Yeah, initially, the approach of bringing everyone together, people didn't know why they were in the room. They basically were used to receiving potentially a job of activities to complete. For me, I didn't know what job of activities they needed to complete. So getting them into the room, I was trying to extract from the, I suppose, the more engaging participants first of all, but then everyone started to gain that momentum, their individual elements of how they piece together the delivery. And for me, I could at some point then step out of that room and leave that delivery running. Well, fundamentally, it's not me that's delivering success, it's the team, which is great. I mean, to be honest, there's some guys, and in I suppose the technical world, there's some guys who don't celebrate, some guys who just get on and deliver. And for me, my responsibility is to make sure people understand how great they are. So shouting out and calling out via emails, via memos, and even the old celebratory bottle of wine is what it's all about. It's actually coming together as a team and delivering something, and then that kind of draws a line under that, and we move on to the next piece.
So they're the three small things we did to try and bring this vision to life for people. Just three small things, but they had a really big impact. So you've got people now, part of these experiments, experiencing firsthand some of those principles we saw on those flags on the tanker from earlier. So they're experiencing it. That's going to help you see and understand that vision. And then through getting these small wins that we've just reported back here on, people are getting a growing belief that there is this better way and we can achieve it. And what we really did here, in pockets of the department, we're now creating advocates for change. So I started at the beginning of this section talking about lighting small fires. You know, if you light enough small fires, they'll catch. But I guess if we're honest with ourselves, it needed something bigger and bolder. If we're going to really turn this tanker 90 degrees, it needs something much bigger.
So we needed to do something that was bigger and more significant. And I think the CIO in his video earlier on said we could go so much further. And you know, you do need to be bold. You do need to go another step further. And here's some of the things that we did to just take it that one step further, just to start to turn the tanker. And that's all where we are. So the first thing, of course, anybody that's doing an organizational change, well, we look at the structure, don't we? So that's where we started too. And we looked at our organizational structure, but we went through every role in the IT department. And we looked at the DDAP framework, which is the government framework, you're probably aware of it. And we looked at the roles that they had in there, and we used that as a basis, and then we brought our own experience to it and what we thought about Agile and what we'd learned. And we started creating an organizational structure which we felt would work. We didn't know all the processes and how everything would work, but we knew the roles that we needed to put in there, and we defined those. Secondly, we did some modeling of the scenarios. So again, this is about bringing it to life. So you might have an organizational structure, but you know, that actually doesn't mean much to people. They see a role profile and you sort of get something from that, but how does it really work? And we didn't have all the answers to that, so what we did is we modeled a scenario. So we came up with a beach parking application. So if you've ever been to a beach in Cornwall, you know it's very difficult to park, and when you get there, it's very frustrating that you can't park because you've packed all the family and everything into the car, and you really want to park in that car park. So we thought, well, you know, let's develop an app. And what we do, we went through that as a scenario and all the roles that we had in our organizational structure, and we went through with our staff, and they were questioning and going, well, how would this work? And we didn't have all the answers. But we could have a look at a roadmap and go, so if we were a product lead and we were developing a roadmap, what might be on that roadmap and how might it work? And again, you're just starting to get people thinking about what this really means for the roles. Secondly, we trialed transition. So we had a team that was sort of moving into the new world, or we could put them in the new world. So we gave them the space. We took them out of their existing roles, we gave them a space, a physical space, as well as the people, and we said, have a go at developing a roadmap. What would it look like for you in this? Let's see what we can learn. We're not expecting you to come up with the perfect answer, but have a go at something. Try and learn it. The delivery manager we put in that space, what could they learn about how delivery is changing? How can you get iterative delivery? What about finance? How does finance work? You know, we charge customers every month. Is that going to work the same in the new world? And it started to give people, again, a learning by doing experience. You have a go at it, share it with the other teams, and we'll develop it and evolve it as we go along. Fourthly, constantly communicating change. You'll know this in any organisation, communicating change is so important and actually so difficult to do. You know, any employee survey, what's the top of the list? Communicating change. So difficult to do communication effectively. And we're not saying that we've got there at all. But what we have done is we've launched a newsletter which gives people updates on a weekly or fortnightly basis. We do stand-ups with the whole team to try and communicate out what's going on. We try and keep that going. And what that's about is reinforcing the message. So we tell people about the trialling that's going on, about what they found so far. Stories about people that are in the service and what they're doing and what they're experiencing. Trying to reinforce those different behaviours. And finally, supporting to build confidence in the change. So there's something around people having confidence to do something a bit different. And what we did as a management team, with everything going on, our time, of course, is just all over the place doing so many different things. So what we decided to do was we would have a Thursday where our diaries were completely empty. And our staff could come and talk to us, invite us into their teams. Of course, they can come at any other time and talk to us. But we made sure that that was completely clear. And we've only just started that, and that's, again, an experiment for us to see how people use it.
And that's every Thursday, just to make that point. Every single Thursday we keep our diaries clear.
Yeah, except this Thursday we have to be.
Yep. Okay, so what we have found, there's a lot of people out there who are really passionate about this topic of Agile. I think once you've got Agile working in your organisation, people are really keen to spread the joy. So we've been really lucky. We've been able to tap into some of that expertise. You know, people, the response has been overwhelming, quite frankly. We've been invited for reference site visits to look at how organisations are working. We've been offered mentoring, coaching. We've received free training from 2 organisations. You know, the response is absolutely overwhelming. And I guess the key point for us here is to embark on this sort of journey, to turn your tanker in a different direction. You don't have to be an expert in product or in Agile, but what you need the desire and you need the ambition. And we're going to hear from Andy again, who's going to talk to us about that.
I think you need a lot of ambition. So I don't think it's a bad thing to, I don't know if you can have too much, maybe expectation setting, but I think that's a separate thing. But I think the desire has been fantastic. For example, when I've told people at the council looking to become Agile, you get a few laughs, and not being rude, that you do, because it's a local authority, it's public sector, people just have a bit of a laugh with it, a bit of fun with it. But I've told them that I genuinely seen a desire to actually become Agile. And if you've got a bit too much ambition in this case, I don't think that's bad, because you've got, you know, some big hills to climb, and maybe it's just the expectation setting that's more important.
So we're going to leave you with the 4 takeaways. The first thing you must do is acknowledge where you are. If you're not honest with yourselves as organisations and as individuals, you will never move from the position in which you're in. So you must first acknowledge, be really honest with yourself, acknowledge where you are. Secondly, identify a better way. So we went about it in a certain way. That might not be the way that you do it. But whatever you do, create that picture of the future which you believe in, that your staff can believe in, and then you can make it real, you can bring it to life for people. Because if you don't bring it to life, people won't come on that journey with you. You have to make it real. It can't stay as a picture or a set of words or a set of principles. It's got to be you that is part of that change. Be the change you want to see. And finally, you are not alone. There are a lot of people that have been through this journey, are on this journey, are about to start this journey. You know, and we, like others, are really happy to share our experiences. We are just at the beginning. We know that. We know we've got a long way to go. But we have started to turn that tanker.
Okay. I think we're out of time for questions, are we? Okay, so we'll stick around after this session, so if you've got any questions, please come and speak to us. If you don't manage to catch us right now, we're here at the conference. We'll be at the beach party tonight. In a second, we'll just show our email addresses so you can contact us via email. But we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your feedback on this presentation. We'd love to hear about your experiences. And if you would like to join us to help us turn our tanker, we'd love to hear from you too. Okay, thank you.